Taco Tuesday, where George and I tell you about motorcycle and motorcycle-related products. We answer your questions live from the chat room, from the questions you left on the YouTubes, the ones that you emailed us, the ones that flew in from outer space, however it all works. We've got your questions here. We're going to answer 9 out of 10 without referring to a reference manual. Most of the time the information is correct. And George's job here tonight is to... I caught him. He's got his mouth full. What's your job tonight, George?
To talk when you're drinking?
Right. There we go. We're back to the old ways here. No, but you can read the questions. Logan's not here again. I don't know what you let the air out of his dad's truck tires. What'd you do?
Well, it's a HIPAA thing. We can't talk about Logan.
Right.
He may have been in close proximity to somebody that had some kind of evil thing going on, or somebody that had that in their app. What happens in that app, the close contact, if you just falsely put in there, hey, I've tested positive? Is there a fail-safe for that, or then do the trolls just do that?
The drones start following you around and stuff, right? The drones and all that stuff.
Pretty small gallery tonight.
Anyways, hey, thanks everybody for joining in. Welcome again. Welcome to the show. We will get to the questions that I had. Do you have that? Where's the ones that you stole? Did you steal the one from last time?
Right here.
Remember what your second job is? To make this sound interesting.
No, I'm not doing that.
You're
that
not
was
doing it.
In the union contract.
No, you have to.
Oh, we got to thank your sponsor.
Right,
Primary.
Climb. So Climb has been supporting this show since, about episode 30 or so. They've been kind of behind us. What Climb gear did you wear today, George?
I think I had Mojave pants.
Right.
I had a Carhartt shirt on.
Uh-huh.
And I had a Climb carbon fiber helmet on. What else Climb did I have? Were you wearing Climb gear all day today, Jeremy?
The full Badlands outfit.
Oh, here,
Jeremy was wearing
let's
Badlands.
see the Badlands. That's in black, right?
In what color was your Badlands? Like when you started?
It was kind of a blackish brown.
Right.
Brown.
So we had blackish brown to begin with, and then
Can we show that?
yeah, sure. Hold it up to the camera. Yeah, and then it turned.
How close do you have to get?
It turned the color of Pahrump. Even closer would be better.
This is actually
I'm asking.
dirt people moment.
I'm asking. Yeah, and you wonder why we call Pahrump Valley the dirt people. What color did it turn, Jeremy?
It turned that color, very tan, It turned the color of that fesh on the dry lake bed.
Fesh, yeah. So, but your Badlands protected you.
I feel no pain.
As Climb gear should. So, everybody, we don't have to talk about it too much. We just know that it's good quality gear.
What kind of bike were you riding?
Obviously the KTM, but the other Climb gear, we all were wearing Climb Hydro packs.
Oh, that's true. We all had some kind of. You had the 2 Arsenal vests. Yep. And then I had just their backpack.
2 Arsenal vests.
No, I just wear one.
I want to know who wearing.
So we want to know if you can beta test some of the air inflatable stuff, because we think we'll put it on Jeremy and we'll get results right away.
Okay, Climb, you heard that. Send us the. Actually, they're working on. I did a podcast live from Climb, and they're working on the computer science behind making that airbag deploy properly for off-road. The road racing, for sure, there's a lot of data out there. On-road, there's a lot of data out there. It was a little bit easier for them to acquire that, I guess. But they're working on it for off-road as well. So,
and that's primarily for head and neck? Is that what it does, or is it everything?
It's everything. Yeah, it's kind of everything.
Would have saved me in my belly flop then, the rib break on the 50.
Would you have put it on?
To try it, sure.
You weren't you were not being very safe that day.
I had a chest protector on and everything that day.
When you tipped over on the 50 and broke ribs, you had a chest protector
I wouldn't
on.
call it a tip over first. I think that's very much understating my horrific get off. Okay, but
you were less than like, how tall is that? The wheels are 10 inches tall and the seat height might be 25 inches. You were just barely over 2 feet from the ground.
Well, there you go. I was on a Honda. Let me get this out of the way. Powered by a distinct ready-to-race mentality, KTM is the world's leading high-performance street and off-road sport motorcycle manufacturer with North American headquarters based in Murrieta, California. Over the years, KTM has built a reputation as a fierce competitor on racetracks around the world, and the brand's remarkable global success is reflected in every product it develops and every move it makes.
That's a mouthful, George. You only had one little stutter in it, so still not at the level of perfection that we expect around here.
I'm 4 deep on the tequila already.
Ooh, yeah. That's so for 4 deep in the tequila, we'll give that to you. So who today here was riding a KTM? Yeah, I rode a Honda today also. I rode a gas. No, I didn't ride it. That was yesterday. I rode a gas. Rode a Beta today. So yeah, we ride them all. Welcome everybody to the show. We're going to get straight to the question. Do we have any questions in the chat room?
It is 0 degrees in Anchorage.
Oh, wait a minute. Todd Kelly, he switched over from Rogan's YouTube. Who's Rogan? Sitting on traffic lights out of malfunction, hope to get off on time. I don't know what that is, but I'm pretty sure that we're better than Rogan, right?
He's not in a good place right now.
Raymond Wynn asks, what is a good silencer for my 2021 KTM 300? I looked at the one that's a Q, and it's not offered for this bike. I think it's back ordered. It's the one you're looking at, Raymond. The one you're looking at is a good one. Yeah, I like to. I can't remember that name brand anymore. It's hard for me.
Oh, come on difficult. Now.
How many letters in the name?
3.
There's 3.
Are
yeah.
Two in the same letter?
2 of them are starts and ends in the same letter.
Yeah.
Middle one's kind of an upside down
W. Yeah, that one.
Hopefully they'll sponsor the show.
If they would just kind of, I think they're turning into a T-shirt company, not a muffler company, and they don't really want to talk to me about it. So, which is really bad, but that's okay. The marketing guy's in charge, not me.
That one's on my 300, and it runs like a rape day.
How do you like the paint job I put on that thing?
Yeah, you did a real good touch up on that.
It worked pretty good, right?
Yeah. Blended it in a little bit on the side cover, but that's okay.
So George did something that just bothered me. He showed up with a giant sticker on the side of his muffler. Now, I mean, I'm about stickers and product placement and the right thing, but like stickers on the muffler is just it's one of those things that I just don't do. I don't see, like
the factory puts a sticker on it. I thought I'd have one. I got all these stickers in a box. I thought I'd put it on there.
Okay, so inappropriate sticker on the muffler, you could have got your muffler from the sticker that you put on the side of it.
It was a J.C. Whitney sticker or something like that. Wasn't it something pretty generic?
It was like you know how when you see something and it's just completely wrong. I mean whatever. So when I see stuff motorcycle wise and it's completely wrong. It bothers me, and I don't necessarily need to say anything, except you might be close enough into my circle where I feel like I'm like
obligated for me not to look too stupid because I got your stickers on my bike. Is that what it was?
Wait, no, you put a sticker on your muffler, and so tell them why you put the sticker on the muffler.
Cover up a big scratch or dent or ding or something on the side.
Who did that?
You did.
Okay, so I felt somewhat responsible. It wasn't just you riding around with the sticker on the muffler. It was a big sticker, by the way. It was almost the size of the muffler. And I was more worried that it was going to actually melt onto the muffler, which it can do because it wasn't really a muffler sticker. Now, if your muffler comes with like stickers or decorations on it, which is usually the reason most people buy a muffler, so it has a better decoration to their motorcycle. I had to peel it off, and then I spray painted his muffler to remove the scratches that I put into it because I could kind of understand the scratch thing. It looked pretty janky, but it worked out.
No, the color matched pretty good. I really don't care. I put a sticker on it.
So hey George, what color Depends are you wearing? Oh, geez.
Well, they're brown now. Okay, we know that.
This is where this is going, right?
Sean McNee, he's got a question.
Okay.
A riding question, though.
Right. I can answer
this.
This
isn't an uncommon theme. He says, so he's planning on doing the tour of Idaho next year. What's the best piece of advice you can lay on me? ? I'm diving deep into the navigation and will be running 2 GPSs on handlebars. Bike's a 501 set up for off-road. It's not an easy ride. I've heard you say that off the air.
The Tour of Idaho.
Yeah. It's
so
not just
he's setting up the bike and he wants to know what's the best piece of advice. Modify the crap out of your bike, right?
No, it's not really about the bike. So
bolt it on.
His question is just generally about advice. I don't think he's asking really particularly about the bike.
Man, that's such a that's a huge question because there's so many avenues you can go down, and if you want to have a successful Tour of Idaho, it's proper preparation. That's the answer. And like, well, what does that really mean? It's like, make sure your bike is absolutely dialed. Make sure that your bike is familiar. You're trying to eliminate problems. And so you want to be familiar with your bike. You want to make sure that your motorcycle meets the criteria it needs to meet to accomplish the goal. And most of the bikes today are plenty durable as long as you are on the right type of bike. So right type of bike, if you're on the right type of bike, it's going to be plenty durable. Just don't screw it up with something that you've done that you haven't tested. And make sure you're familiar with whatever setup it is that you're running. And then make sure that you as a rider are aware of your ability level. You've done all those kinds of types of trails before with your fully loaded up bike, the way you're going to ride it. So you're familiar with how it handles, because it's going to be a little bit different than if it's completely stripped down. And just practice. Make sure you've got your riding skills in point, and realize that you're not doing this for 1 day or 2 days. You're doing this for 7, 8, 9 days in a row. And that's where I think a lot of people, one little problem that you have bringing into it that you can suffer through for a day or two is no problem. So like, you picked the wrong tire, let's say, and it doesn't get the traction that you're used to. Well, that's okay for 1 or 2 days, but on the third day, the suffering that you did in the first 2 days will come back to haunt you. That's usually what happens. And then you think the day 3 issues or something, wait till day 4 and day 5, and the problems that you caused on day 1 and 2 are now, affecting you later on. So it's proper preparation.
Those are probably really, really long days for most people, right?
Yes, for most people. And when I did it, Martin, the guy who designed the tour and stuff, he knew where my riding ability was, so he wasn't giving me as much slack as he wanted to. A flack as he wanted to when I was starting at 7:30 or 8 in the morning, which is that's a normal time for most people to start. He wants you to start before the sun comes up, and I was kind of like, no big deal. I got this, and luckily, I didn't have any problems that slowed me down. That's usually what slows you down. If you're just riding at a normal, safe pace, which I wasn't going much faster than the way that probably most guys ride that tour. I just wasn't ever stopping or having problems. And so I think he was kind of pickled that I didn't take off in the morning, but then again, it ended up being successful. But that's what I do for my life, a living in general. So I have a big advantage going into that kind of stuff because I've raced that way. I ride that way a lot of times, long days, and it's kind of normal, where for most people it's a dream and you have to practice and work up to it. So,
well, I remember Hans talking about he tried it this year, right?
Yes.
Or last year?
Yep. No, this year. Yeah, last year.
Something real simple, I think, took him out in the end late. If I recall, maybe you recall better. I think he said something simple happened. He went to put a foot down in a stop late in the day, tired or something like that, and fell over and hurt his knee or something, right?
I think that was the story. Yeah, and I think he had his knee was a little bum going into it, and he just had a couple little situations that made it worse and worse. But it's all it takes is one. I mean, it could happen for anybody. You could have that accident or that little mistake, and no matter what, that's going to prevent it. But it seems like that's more common than it should be on the tour. When you hear the stories about different guys having problems, and when I kind of look at it and watch it's like, okay, yeah, that's what you said ended your tour, but you look, 3 days earlier, it was like, oh yeah, I was going a little bit too fast and I high sided off of a trail and took 3 hours to get the bike back on, and I kind of ginched my knee, and then sure enough, it's like, well, I put my knee down here and it twisted it. Is that a result of, was it weak and all that kind of stuff? So lots of.
But I know Hans is pretty bummed because I think he was serious about training himself to do it.
Oh, no, he did.
And he says, I want to go. He's an older guy, but he's a capable rider, fast rider and everything. And yeah, he's pretty bummed. He said, I trained for 4 months for this or something and, didn't make it. So he wants to go back.
Did you see Logan gave us some hand claps?
No.
He gave us some hand claps on the thing here. That's because he didn't hear what you said about him. You're just totally beating him up on the stuff. What is that making that noise? Besides Bob's eating the chips. I can hear that too. Somebody wanted us to turn the mic up for Bob when he talks on the backside, and I told him that was a bad idea.
Turn the camera around.
That'll make him run away. It's pretty good. It's 47 degrees in Maryland, Bob.
And your point is?
Just telling you the weather because everybody wanted to know what the
0 in Anchorage. I wanted to know what the weather was from where everybody was.
Yeah,
I can't believe you got pretty much your regular following audience here on.
They don't care.
E-night.
They don't. They've done their part. They're smart people. They probably went out and voted. Now it's up to everybody else to figure out how it works. And I haven't paid attention to it that much because I can't change it at this point. Nothing to worry about. I don't think it's going to be as big I don't think the world's going to go in the crapper or get markedly better because of the voting. That's my particular thing.
So I asked the audience here, via the chat room. I said, "What's the best tip you've got so far from T4?" And basically, nobody's got anything out of this. Except Victor talked about tequila tasting or something.
Hey, Victor, watch this. No, it's too far. I can't reach it. Tequila tasting, you can do that if you want to. Somebody said the best upgrade for your bike is a better rider. It sounds like a marketing slogan.
Could be. It's probably on the back of that shirt.
For a riding school that I own, maybe.
Openings this weekend, right?
We have class this weekend, and I think we have a couple spots if Jeremy doesn't take them. So we should be good. So I think I'm going to get right into the questions here. You can start because that's usually your job. I've been trying to open the cap on this thing for a long time.
Modelito,
and I don't Modelito, and I don't have a device for it. You saw me trying to use the DDC sprocket, which I thought for sure it would have an angle in there at some place to hook on this thing, but it really doesn't. It's
a design flaw.
Yeah.
Better send something to
Mr.
Delaney.
If you're a sprocket manufacturer, having a bottle opener on the design. I know Black Dog CycleWorks has the bottle opener on the bottom of their foot pegs.
Oh, really? That would be pretty cool if this was all bottle openers around there. So.
Right. Yeah. But then someone would actually try to do it while the bike was moving, and somebody would get sued, and then we'd be all in trouble, and it wouldn't work out. Yeah. Okay. Question number 1
from Scott Zundell. Where/how can I ask a question for the show? ? Really enjoy the show.
No. That's the question.
That's it.
That's the question.
He's done.
Scott Zendel asked that question. Right.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of announced the show on Facebook. I usually do it on Tuesday. That's when I go get my social media binge. And I announced the show and I said, ask your questions here. And then I got that question that said, how do I ask a question for the show? So instead of asking that question, Scott, we take all the questions from that post like we are right now, and then we actually answer them. So the best way, if you're interested in asking a question, is instead of typing in that question, you type in your question like, what is the best way to get 78 horsepower out of my KTM 500? And then I would tell you how to do that. But hey, did anybody see that thing I put on I put up on Dirt Bike Test today about the dyno? Engineering Explained?
No, I was out riding.
Really? Why would you do that when you could watch the internets?
You're right. I should be sitting in a room in my mom's house on the phone.
On the phone.
Checking these things.
Or on your computer and, just checking dirtbiketest.com at every moment's notice. to see what's up. I put a thing about this guy. He does Engineering Explained, and he takes kind of car questions and explains car stuff. And he had a really good one about like what is horsepower and how ridiculous of a number horsepower is, because it was all derived off of what James Watt felt the power of a horse was, which is completely wrong, by the way. Now the best way to measure power is watts, which was named after him, even though the guy made this ambiguous figure. But here's what's really important is that if you are going to tell somebody how much horsepower your bike makes, you should always use the SAE method, because we get more horsepower than the metric method. Just information. And if you're really smart, you'll bring it to my dyno, because I got my dyno tuned to make more horsepower than anybody else's.
That's your butt dyno, though, right?
No, that dyno is like bad. That dyno, like everybody hates that dyno because it doesn't correlate to the actual real dyno that they use, which is kind of my beef with dynos. Because like we don't ride dynos. Especially for dirt bikes. I mean, it's a great tuning tool. It can be used by smart people, but there's a lot of people I've run into in this world that only tune on a dyno, and then they tell you as the rider, it's like, oh, you're an idiot. Because like what they're seeing, which is usually a horsepower number that they're trying to achieve, doesn't, when you say, well, the bike's not rideable, and they're like, but it makes more horsepower. And we get in that, we run down that train. So, okay, enough beating a dead horse, which, by the way, would probably make the proper amount of horsepower for horsepower readings.
Beating a dead horse?
Dead horse. Yeah, it would be the best way.
Ready for another one off the sheet here?
Go ahead. I'm getting rally training updates.
Really enjoy the show, but my work schedule prevents me from watching Tech Talk Taco Tuesday live. So thanks for taking the time to answer my questions. I ride a 2014 KTM 200 XCW.
200?
200.
Oh.
You have one, don't you?
Yeah.
14, it's about that year, isn't
right.
it? Okay, he says in parentheses, gnarly with a Q stealth.
He's telling us what kind of pipe, yeah.
Okay, riding slow. Technical single track in Ohio and Kentucky. Muck, clay, rocks, logs, creeks, etc. Thanks for the suggested gearing changes. I went from a 1448 stock to a 1350. He says that's a 12% change, and I don't do math, do you?
Not much.
Okay. And it made a significant difference. So he geared it down a little.
Hopefully I told him to do that, right? Because he liked it.
Sounds like it.
Yeah.
I'm staying in second now versus first on hills and obstacles.
Yeah, I remember this question. We were trying to get him out of first because he felt like first was dropping it way too low.
And trying to find a happy place for his speed he wanted to go. The bike is tractoring. I'm not getting on the pipe and losing traction. So we talked about this the other day, right? Lots of traction. Much better. So he's happy.
That's good.
There's not a question there. You gave him advice, and that's good. So we're going to move on. Next question. When doing very slow technical rock gardens and uphill rock ravine creek climbs, the bike occasionally steams and overheats, especially in the hot, humid summer. Time for a radiator fan kit or any other suggested fixes. Any downsides to install a radiator fan? Thanks, Doug.
Okay, Doug. We've discussed this. We've heard this on the show before, but I'm going to tell you straight away, there's no downside to installing the radiator fan. None whatsoever that I've found yet, other than if you have a gas tank it doesn't fit on or whatever. But good modification. It can generally only help. But the heat, even in your two-stroke, is coming from the clutch. So the essentially the clutch is like the way it slips and stuff. It's causing friction. And I know we got your gearing right and everything, and maybe now since you're a little bit more in second gear, you might be slipping the clutch a little bit more. And the way that I teach, we teach you to use the clutch as a power amplifier, not a power reducer. But the way that most people use the clutch is they reduce the power, and that power has to go someplace, and it goes into heat. and it heats up the engine oil and it heats up the cases, and the clutch is just hot and the oil's transferring all that heat, and it works its way up into the cylinder, up into the cooling, up into the water pump. And so that's where your heat is coming from. And so the easiest way to get rid of that is to get off the clutch. That's the simple thing. The fan will help a little bit, and it's sometimes when you combine that low speed, not really moving, with the less airflow, then it kind of just compounds the problem. The cooling fan will help that, but it's really hard to dissipate the heat from the clutch in a motor, on any motor. The cooling system really wasn't designed to dissipate that amount of heat. So take that for what it's worth. And Bob is waving his hand over there, and he's got his mask on.
The transmission oil lubes the backside of the water pump, so if it gets really hot, it's going to go right into the water.
Yep, it goes everywhere. I mean, the heat, it goes into your frame. I felt frames get hot from guys being hard on their clutch before. So, Doug, I think about what you're doing with the clutch.
Recluse.
That Recluse. And speaking of Recluse, they sponsor this show as well. Whoa. You could put a Recluse in it, and then you wouldn't have to touch the clutch at all. But on a 200, I'll mind you, on a 200, that's a tricky setup on the Recluse, because if you set it up the way I do, the bike tends to bog a little bit because it's only a 200. It just can't lug. Well, if you're like my heavy ass, like I don't want it slipping enough to really build the power to be able to torque out. But then I set it up so it kind of bogs a little. It kind of bogs the bike down. A lot of people don't like that. So the Recluse on the 200 is a tricky one. I have it in mine, and then I took it out. I actually like the old Z Start Pro. I was able to get that one working perfect on the Recluse, but the EXP has been tough on that particular bike. But
Z Start has all the babies in it.
It's all the ball bearings, yeah. And it was a smoother, longer engagement, and you could control it more. And I remember I spent a lot of time taking that cover off and replacing tungsten balls with other balls, and too many balls for me.
Okay, ready for another one?
Okay.
Jimmy, good job last week on the spark arrestor discussion. I wanted to follow up with a little more information that might be interesting to the group.
Let me paraphrase this because it's going to get long. This is Chris Reel.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's 4 pages.
Well, I know. Give it back. I'm going to
post it up.
No, it's not. It's not for posting. I was going to handle this question to begin with because Chris goes into extreme detail, basically we had some questions about bullet spark arrestor, screen spark arrestor, and all this other time. Well, Chris told me it's pretty interesting that through his company DPS Technical, they certify things to make them legal, whether it's through EPA or CARB and stuff. They do a lot of testing, and he was saying that now on some of the KTM Adventure bikes and some other bikes, they've actually got it certified where the combination of the cat and the way that they have the let me see what it says. They've been able to certify the EFI, the oxygen sensor, the catalytic converter, and the muffler, and the onboard diagnostic system to basically be certified as a spark arrestor. So you don't actually have a mechanical spark arrestor in there. They have it, figured out that thing will not pass sparks. So technically it works. But he was saying that the government agencies that enforce it, in other words, the Forest Service and stuff that want to come and stick a stick down your muffler, they don't know that this level of certification has been achieved. So, they're kind of getting pretty far ahead on that kind of stuff. And the other thing he mentioned is that, what was the other? There's one other thing. Oh, that he said that on a side note, whenever I'm supporting an event organizer, I strongly urge the documented use of spark arresters. And so he's talking about anytime they're doing sort of races where they might go off of like off of a racetrack or something like that. So any type of race, because this allows the event organizer to function and keeps them from violating a section of the Code of Federal Regulations that, if violated, is a justifiable cause for the land manager to cancel the event and revoke the permit. So he's saying that if you need, if you're having an event, to make sure the bikes have spark arresters on them, because it can help your event, and it's federally required, and it also stemmed from a question that somebody asked: why do certain bikes that are kind of quote off-road bikes not come with spark arresters? Because they're sold as competition vehicles. And in the legislative side, smarter people than us have made sure that we can still go out and practice on our competition vehicle. So if you're going to go do that and you're going to end up on public lands, then you're required to put a spark arrestor on it. But if they sell the bike with the spark arrestor on it, then the manufacturer is saying, "Oh, we intend this to be ridden on public land." So it's kind of like it's a little bit of a red tape thing, and that's why they don't come that way. So I will read his thing here. It says spark arresters on racing motorcycles from the EPA perspective imply that the vehicle might not be used recreationally, thus falling into a different category, recreation and not racing exempt. So the manufacturers, this is why manufacturers do not install them as standard equipment on race bikes. So, and he touched on that.
So the manufacturers are trying to do the right thing and put spark arresters on their bikes. And the government's looking at it the other way and going, "Oh, this bike must be made for something else."
Right. They don't put the spark arrestor on it because they want to be able to sell you that motorcycle as a competition vehicle, because you want that level of performance. If you decide to put a spark arrestor on it and take it off road, that's on you. Yeah. So that's it's the way it works. So
Chris also just piped in here on the clutch question by suggesting you can add volume, put a bigger clutch cover on. Add volume of oil, so it takes a little longer to heat up that oil.
It also takes it longer to cool down.
Longer to cool it down. Well, there's more surface area on that clutch cover, which I guess could radiate heat, right?
Maybe a little bit better, but it takes a little longer to achieve that temperature. And generally, the guys that are slipping the clutch, it's just it's prolonging the problem and causing it to last a little bit longer and stuff.
Rusty Nails saying the best advice he got off the show was to torque by feel versus torque wrench. I'm not sure that's great advice. That's kind of a way of life.
How did your torque wrench work yesterday? Did you get certified yesterday?
Oh, didn't you hear my elbow? I called out. Bob read the torques out of the manual, and then the next thing you knew, I dialed it in.
Your elbow clicked? Yeah. I heard that going on. I wasn't sure what was going on. There was a lot going on.
That's what it was.
I wasn't trying to pay attention.
Oh, yeah. Let's go over the Jimmy. Well, we should talk about that install, but let's go over your installation methods versus the instructions and the installation video that
we'll get put up. Oh, Jesus. So
we jimmied it.
Yeah, well,
we gave it a shot.
Okay, so we're talking about the new Recluse rear brake, left-hand rear brake setup, and of course, we got two of them because Bob is a believer. Mojave Bob is a believer and uses them on his bike. So I said, "Here, Bob, take this new one and go and put it on your bike and ride with it and tell me how it works in comparison to the older one." Because I also have an older one, and I will go ride Bob's bike and I will do the same comparison. What Bob failed to realize is that he was going to tell me all about it without going to ride his bike. So he's like he's like an Instagram influencer or a magazine test rider from another magazine where they just guess how it's going to work. Usually they don't even install it themselves. They just have somebody put it on, and then they look at it and they go, okay, and they take a picture and then they tell you how it works, which is not the way we work around here. But
it's nice how you're able to disrespect people right to their face when they're in the room here. You know, you don't beat around the bush and say things behind their back.
I don't.
No, you just let it all flow right out. That's a good quality. I'm serious.
It is for like at least 10% of the population. The rest of the 90% just like to go and hide and then talk about you if you have something to say, you should just say it.
And you're kind of that way which I'd argue is why you're not just a shill on the bikes and the stuff you review. I mean, you know.
Well, it's just a lot easier that way. There's no secrets. So back to like I didn't. So the new Recluse system, the big change, a lot of the components are the same except for that whole master cylinder is completely different. And I saw the parts that came with it because I did look at it carefully. I shot photos of it, and I didn't tell you how I thought about it because I didn't know because I hadn't used it. But it has a mountain bike-esque sort of bleeding system where they actually give you the 2 syringes like they do in the brakes, and they have this big, intricate way of doing it that I think is designed for, well, I'm going to say it out loud, like less mechanically inclined people than me. And so knowing that bleeding brakes and clutch systems, hydraulic clutch systems, is one of the worst tasks ever, and there's so much failure in it, I have a way that it's kind of proven it works. So I told you guys what to do. I said, don't read all that crap.
Some of that worked pretty good. I was glad to try it.
Screw the instructions. I'm going to get you 90% of the way, and then because the idea is you need to fill the system up with hydraulic fluid, with a mineral oil. You need to do, is it mineral oil or brake fluid? Brake fluid on that one. Right. You need to fill it up with brake fluid, and I know the best way to do that. So I told you, I said, zip tie a baggie down at the bottom and just start pouring it on the top and let it gravity feed down there. And then instead of using syringes that pop off and all these different things, it's sort of the same system. This was just very simplified, and just, let it bleed down in there and then squeeze it around and, get it so where you're using that baggie. I told him to, just basically submerge the end of that hose in the fluid, and then you kind of squeeze it back in. So you're doing the same thing with syringes.
That part of that worked pretty good. It's just there was some mechanical things going on in there.
Because when there's 2 syringes, it's kind of a pressurized system. It's not as and I've seen the ones where they pump it back up the system and then it overfills on the top and it just makes a mess. But anyways, just like your torque wrench in your arm, this is a simplified method of doing stuff. But there's something different in that master cylinder that it doesn't bleed out exactly the same. I think there's an air chamber in there some way that it needs to be forced into it. So anyways, we got it.
It works good.
It didn't take much. It was just, realizing that thing has to be up in the instructions show the picture of the thing being bled kind of pointed up in the air. But we had to.
I forget what we did. We had to force it down through that little bleed port.
And the caveat to all this is when we're installing this, I use the oil that we stored up in the rear master cylinder, or the rear slave cylinder, rear wheel cylinder. We use that to kind of back flush everything back.
Right.
But I think what happened is there wasn't enough volume in that to push everything all the way back.
Yeah, maybe. Bob was up last night. He couldn't sleep because he's waking up screaming that we didn't bleed the whole brake system. We bled it. We didn't replace all the fluid that had been in there, and that upset him.
Oh, because are they dissimilar fluids?
That's why he threw your air tank away or whatever.
Oh.
No, they were the same fluids. He just, good practice. You change all that stuff out and everything. But
I will tell you with
I will
tell you with 100% certainty that the way that I do things is not the way a factory mechanic does them.
No,
it's a way that a guy
or somebody that's paid to do it right.
Oh no. If I promise you that 80% of the people you pay will do it more like me than the way a factory mechanic would do it.
And Bob comes from like airplane mechanics. You want to do all that, get it right. I mean, we're getting on a dirt bike, and if we ride it out there and the brake fails, we'll get around it.
Yes. And not in the air though.
No.
But I'm doing this stuff like a guy that wants to go riding.
Yeah.
And let's get it done, and I'm gonna get it done to a level where it's gonna work perfectly for a long, long time. That's the end goal. I don't want to check off all the boxes and have a little star put on it and then have somebody pat me on the back. I just want to get it done. Let's go ride. That's it. Let's not beat around the bush.
And we did that.
We did. It worked.
And it seems to function as designed. I mean, you can lock up the rear wheel with that or whatever. It's, jury's still out if I want to, get another one, put it on another bike or or how much I'll use it.
Right.
I keep worrying I'm going to grab a handful of something and it's going to be the wrong thing I intend to grab.
As opposed to the clutch.
Yeah.
Well, you have a recluse clutch in there, so you should never be grabbing that lever to begin with. Right? Or do you actually pull the clutch in? Like how much? So you have recluses on most of your bikes.
Yeah.
How much do you ever pull the clutch in anymore?
A lot of times I start out it, but as I get my clutches tuned a little better, I use it less and less.
Okay.
You know?
Right.
I gotta put my clake on and give that an honest shot.
Don't worry, there's no O-rings in it, so you don't have to worry about it too much. I think we start right up there, at the top of that page.
Jimmy, my name is Adam with Flippa. Right?
That's what it says.
My name is Adam with Flippa, Flippa. I came across your affiliate-based content site/business, and I think it is great. I wanted to ask you whether or not you'd ever considered selling your business. Have you ever had a valuation done on it? I'd love to offer you a complimentary valuation here. If you'd like to discuss how to sell your business, I'd be more than happy to set up a time that works for you. Cheers.
Right. Well, so he's stealing cheers from me, because that's my word. So Dirt Bike Cess is for sale, and I know what I think it's worth. Like it's worth a lot. Like I don't know what a lot is, but it's worth a lot. And so Adam at Flippa, you just set up a time anytime you want. When we're starting to talk the dollars, that sounds like a good deal. Like it's worth. If somebody's emailing me, it's worth something, right?
Cold emails directly to your show.
Yeah.
Question line. That's how you do these deals.
Yeah, it's worth a lot. So if you're thinking about advertising on Dirt Bike Test, you better get in now before Adam gets a hold of it, because he's going to have higher rates than we have right now. And he's already seen our conversions. Like, I mean, think about it. We do that KTM read, and every person in this room right now is riding a KTM. Is that strange or what? No, it's proven advertising that works, and that's why you should be on dirtbiketest.com. Oh, you know what I'm really upset about, though? Like the magazine
missing that
done.
air tank.
No, the magazine is not done. It
was supposed to, there wasn't really a date set other than in your head for today.
Well, evidently, according to all the other people that I work with, yes, there was. I was the only one that had the date and that didn't communicate it to anybody else. But so it's on me.
I knew.
You knew?
Yeah.
That's why I've been so stressed lately. I mean, I don't really have stress, but like
if it wasn't that, it'd be something else.
How come I always wonder how come it's not done. I'm like, what the hell? It's not done. So it's on me. So but there'll be lots of ads in that. So you should be happy because you're going to get lots of advertising. And it's enough to make us want to do it again, another magazine. Or at least, do I want to do it again? I'm not sure. We'll decide after we see how many people look at it.
And where do we find this digital magazine?
Super secret right now. But you'd probably best start by going to dirtbiketest.com.
Okay.
That's probably the first place. We'll announce it here, and I'll show people it, and maybe when this is a YouTube video, a banner will pop up and it'll try to advertise it. There's ways we can do this. I heard there's like this whole internet marketing.
If we could just get somebody in the industry that could navigate their way around this and get some help, it'd really help out. Huh?
I think that I don't know. I don't know. Do you know anybody?
But you got to listen to them.
Really?
Yeah.
Actually, I think what would work is that if you just want me to get one of those Raytheon accounts where I just bend over and people insert $10.
Hey,
that's
this great relationship here started when you and I were in a bar and you said you needed a little help with the internets. And I said, I know a guy.
You said...
you refer to that as the insta-raping, but we set some stuff up and you went from like 900 followers to at least like 1,400, you know? So
this is coming from my advisor here who has at least 14 followers. I tried to throw you some
12.
I tried to throw you some love last week on the show, and did it go up? Did you get some more followers?
You know, I do, but I disregard all those. Right after the show, I typically get some stuff.
Oh, and you don't let them follow?
No, I don't let them. My inner circle's much tighter than yours. Okay,
it is.
Yeah.
Can they fit $10 in it? That's the important thing.
I take tips.
Yeah.
So you ready for another one from John Bailey?
Okay.
Okay. Great review, Jimmy! ! Well,
what did you expect?
But I don't know what he's talking. I've been waiting patiently for my 2021, and in the meantime, have been on my 2014 300 XCW. So I assume he's getting a 2021 300.
Yep.
You saying it's worth it pushed me over the edge! So you sold another bike.
That's another one. Like if he was sitting in this room, it would only be KTM riders.
You should have been. You should have had a board to really check off all these because you do sell a lot of bikes. Right. You know, well, every week somebody says, "Hey, I bought it because of what you said."
I was trying to think. If I had an assistant, I would have him hang a little board here, and we just turn around every time and just put it up there. But like you guys, what are you guys doing? You guys riding tomorrow? Do you know anybody that can fabricate up a piece of wood that I could just reach back and we just screw it into the wall here?
No,
you're gonna go riding again. Go proof dusting.
So John says, I still love my 2014 and cannot part with it until, and he put a question mark. So he wants to keep his 2014.
No, sell it. Sell it. The market's good now. You're going to do
used bike.
For used bikes. Sell the damn thing. You're not going to. You will not want to ride that bike after having a new one. Well, I don't know. Some people like, here's the funny thing, I've been riding the Beta 300, and so the Beta is carbureted, and the newer KTM's like yours is fuel injected, and they definitely have a different kind of a feel, and whether it's good or bad kind of depends on the rider, because the carbureted bikes feel like they have, for most people, they get the sensation of this bike has more power, more snap, more throttle response, all that kind of stuff. So if you do buy your 2021 and you get it and you go, I'm a little, disappointed by, quote, the power delivery, then you want to hang on to your 14 for a little while and then kind of go back and forth, and then you can evolve to the superior era of fuel injected riders. I like to say that. You can evolve your way up to that.
I'm surprised that Beta's carbureted because it runs really good.
Well, that's fuel injection dragging everybody along for the ride, because before you could have kind of what we would call like marginal jetting, like jetting that wasn't that good. And I played with the clip and the pilot jet on that bike a little bit to get it. Before I wouldn't have complained, but now things are so good. If it burbles a little bit or the throttle response isn't spot on, I notice it. And if I were to ride that Beta from here up to the higher part of the mountain where you get up around 7,000 feet, the throttle response would change, and I would literally, just me would want to go into the carburetor and make an adjustment where the fuel injected bikes don't change, and they stay solid. So just like the four strokes, and if you think carburetors are here to stay, just look at all the four strokes and then look at all the cars and look at all the stuff. And yeah, I still need to get a carburetor for my Cadillac because that was fuel injected back in 1974.
Hear that? We need a carburetor for a 1974 Cadillac
Eldorado with the 501 in it.
Being outfitted for a very important event.
Gambler
500.
Yeah. I got to figure out I got to chop the back of the motorhome so I can put that Cadillac. I think I'm actually going to drive it up in reverse and just put the drive wheels up there and have it hang off the back and the front wheels just kind of rear tow it. And then
I think you could ramp it up there above the bathroom.
Right.
Have the ramp, just ramp it up so the back's
really
going to
tall.
be as high as Yeah,
but I kind of want, when the car comes off, I want an inflatable jacuzzi on the back of the motorhome.
Okay, we got other stuff around here.
Just talk about the motorcycle
stuff. So anyway,
stuff.
The last thing John wants to do is thanks for answering the right questions. Most trail guys want to know. So a positive comment. And you print all these, right? Everything goes in here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Mike Robbie or Roby, R-O-B-E-E?
Roby.
Roby, do you know him?
No, I just...
oh, sorry, Mike. Moto Roby.
Moto Roby?
Moto Robbie.
Yeah. It's not that hard. Logan would pronounce it properly.
The reason, why she felt traction control is the geometry of the swing arm, ... That is why Yamaha spent 3 years to make it perfect.
So he's talking about our Tenere 700 video, and Moto Roby. I wondered why he was such an expert. So I went and, every once in a while I'm possessed to go check to see where these comments are coming from. And he does a lot of videos of him riding around in a car talking to himself, talking to other people. But so I said, what I replied to him, I said, you've been watching way too many well-produced videos about this bike, meaning the other guy that literally went on and said that Yamaha designed that, this angle of the swing arm and all this other stuff. We had a long, long discussion on a show, and if Logan were here, he'd tell you exactly, because that's kind of co-host he is. He'd tell you exactly which show it was. He'd say, "Oh, go back and look at show this or that," and then he'd tell me exactly which one. Right, there's the diagrams. Like, that's good, George. See, you're catching on. One of these days you'll be as good as that kid we bring in here. So we talked about the angle of the swing arm and all that stuff, and that made for really good fodder on the other guy's videos. But that's not where the, quote, traction control is coming from. The traction control is coming from the design of that engine being a cross-plane, 270-degree firing parallel twin. That is where you're getting that, quote, traction control feel, as well as from the mapping and from the way that they've delivered the power on that bike. It has very little to do with the chassis geometry. And I know that because I'm a professional.
Is it just slow to come in on the bottom?
Nope.
Is that kind of what it is?
No, it's the cross.
Nope.
Different.
It's the so what a cross plane crank does is it has a long delay between the firing at one point and then a close firing. And it was something that was used they did it with 4-cylinder engines like in MotoGP. From maybe not familiar, Honda had an engine called the Big Bang engine. It was done on, wasn't MotoGP. What was it called back then? The 500 class? GP, yeah. They used to do that with the 2-strokes. It was like when they figured that out, the cheating that they were able to do, quote cheating, they just reconfigured their motor, and all of a sudden their guys were getting traction where everybody else was eating shit.
They were also going to the moon.
Yeah, moon.
Yeah. The moon on that.
No, that was the 500 guys were spinning their tires.
Yeah.
And the Honda wasn't. And
yeah. It just instead of being just a constant too much power, it's like, here's a lot of power and now we're going to grab some traction. There's a lot of power, now we're going to grab some traction. That's what this Yamaha is sort of doing. So it's not the chassis design Moto Roby, and but I tell you what, the other guys' videos are really well put together and fun and informative, to the point where everybody believes what he says because the videos are good. And then all of a sudden that goes, you know what we need to do? We need to auction off bikes. I mean, we need to have a contest where we do bikes. I think that's way more people would watch our videos if we gave away a bike.
Bob's got a few bikes in your garage. Start auctioning those off.
Right. I was thinking the one that you left in front with your graphics on it, because that's a collector's item.
Yeah. That's olden is now, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Windsor SX 125 3 days ago. I heard the Husaberg 570 has a lot of power.
Oh yeah.
Can anyone confirm?
Yes, I can. I can absolutely, without any reservation, confirm that the Husaberg 570 has a lot of power. So, like I just said, I tend to check in on people. This guy evidently has a lot more Husabergs than I do, and so this was his. I bet you he's getting ready to sell them, and he knows that the price has been going up ever since I've been telling everybody about how, because I have had a couple of people comment, say, dude, quit talking about those things because it's a great bike. I mean, do you know how much power they make? And I look at him like, do I know how much power they make? Yeah, I know how much power they make. I have two of them, and the price is going up, so they can't buy them because everybody wants to ride one. But I can't wait. This is what I really can't wait for. I can't wait for when I'm old, like almost as old as you, George.
You're almost as old as me, another 6 years or something. Right.
So I want to, when I get a little bit older, maybe like Crazy Nate age. When I get Crazy Nate age, I want some kid to come up to me and said, I never got a chance to ride a Husaberg 570. And I really wanted to, but you used to talk about them all the time, and it was like this mythical Like it's like the Mako 490 for me.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn. Yeah, this mythical unicorn flying. What's the?
Yeah, because
is that the unicorn that the Pegasus? The Pegasus. That's you should name that bike.
No, I don't. I don't name my bikes. You know, but I'll tell you,
you don't put stickers on the mufflers either.
No, no, I don't. I pulled apart a KTM 500 that had 500 hours on it. It has between 400 and 600 hours, but I'm going to go with 5. The odometer says 400 and something or other. And I know that it's been run a lot of time without a wheel sensor, so that means that's not accurate. And so it's got a lot of hours on it. I pulled it apart because it was starting to use oil, starting to smoke a little bit. Actually, you wouldn't really see the smoke, but you could see it like leaving it on the fender and on the license plate bracket and stuff. And I was blown away by how good everything looked. And we're pretty sure the oil is going by the rings, but I'll put some pictures up on Dirt Bike Tests Facebook and Instagram so you can see it. Where I'm getting at is, so we're testing some different pistons. I have a Vertex piston that I have in another bike that I'm going to pull out, and then I have this one that had stock, and I'm going to throw another stock one in and do some more comparison, just so I don't just guess at that stuff. We actually try to do it. But I was kind of pissed when I got the stock, the new stock KTM piston, because it said KTM and Husaberg KTM and Husqvarna on the box. And I remember when I got one a while back, it said KTM and Husaberg on the box. And I was kind of hoping when I went up to the rafters where I had this thing stored, I was kind of hoping that it would say Husaberg, because I knew if I put that piston in the bike, my KTM 500, it would have more power. It would have, because it would be a Husaberg piston, and that means more power, just in case you were wondering. So if anybody has like the KTM piston in the Husaberg box, I want that piston. I'll trade you.
Danny Turner says that he heard the Mako 700 would eat its lunch.
So I have not ridden,
which is why you see those all around, huh?
So I have not ridden the Mako 700, but I have ridden the ATK 700, which was built by the same people that made the Mako 700. And by the way, if you could get that bike started, and that's a big if, because I literally had to have Frank White, the owner of the company, we had a ATK 500, a 650 or something like that, and then a 670, which was quote the 700. We rode the 700cc two-stroke, and I kid you not, what a pile of shit.
The 700 is a two-stroke, right?
Right. So there's a certain displacement on a single-cylinder two-stroke where you have just gone too big, and I'm going to guess that it's just slightly south of 500 cc's. When all of a sudden it's just too big of a piston. That thing ran like a diesel. It had a power band of about 1,500 RPM. And I think it started at like 900 and went to like 2,200. It just went bull. And it made torque. But I don't think it made, because it wouldn't rev, it just wouldn't make any power. I mean, it made power, but not a lot, not like a Husaberg 570, by the way. But
those didn't have the electric start either, I don't suspect.
No, it had a big long kickstart you had to take to the top of the stroke, and you had to throw all your weight up on top of it, and you were hoping it was set right at top dead center so it could get a full
it's kick. Point ignition, so you just off a little or something?
No, it was electronic ignition. It probably had an SEM or a Motoplat or something inside of it. But it was an art to get it started, and it had a decomp. I think it had a second spark plug hole with a decomp in it. So I think you had to use the decomp to get it set to top dead center, and I think the trick that Frank had was he would pull the decomp just as he got the lever started, and then let go of it so it would actually fire and not quote misfire.
Let go of it halfway down the push or something.
Yeah, and I knew how to start bikes with decomps and things in the past. So anyhow, yeah, no, Mako 700. I've ridden one, allegedly close.
Rick Justice says, great review, possibly the best I've viewed. What's he talking about?
What was that now?
I don't know. Guy just says, great review, possibly the best I've viewed.
Oh, he's just talking about one of our videos. That's normal. Just Yeah. Okay. So Rick, what's his name? Rick
Justice.
Rick Justice. Kind of like your name?
Peace. Mine's spelled a little different.
Right. Just like George. Spelled a little different.
Yep.
Because you're Mexi Guatemala Eldoran, right? That's where you're from?
Well, we were talking that my people could be from Himalaya.
Himalaya.
Yeah.
Were they
Himalayan? They could be Himalayan, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we were talking about the
Himalayan.
Who makes Royal Enfield?
The Royal Enfield bike.
Himalayan, and Jim was talking about it. Well, that Himalayan. What was that bike? His friend wants to buy one.
Rusty Nail wants me to auction off the Husaberg 570. Is that a special version of the Husaberg? I'm not sure.
I don't know. That could be that rototiller I dropped. Hey, auction that rototiller off.
I might need it to tend to my garden because we're all going to have to lock down here and grow our own food pretty soon. You know how it's going to go. Okay. I watched the news one night. Next.
Greg Rossell, Roessell, Jimmy.
Greg Rossell, Rossell. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was starting to drink. I thought you were going to read
We just got to make sure the names are right. I mean, like Logan would be pretty pissed if we didn't pronounce the name properly.
Jimmy, I keep hearing that the best modification of your bike would be some of those shiny anodized hubs or a super loud exhaust. Do you have any opinions about this?
No, none whatsoever. Okay. In fact, that's probably the most accurate statement that's been spoken on the show tonight. Shiny what?
Anodized hubs. Shiny anodized hubs or a super loud exhaust. Wheelie boy stuff, huh?
Well, I take all these questions seriously. Shiny anodized hubs can sometimes be good if your hubs are junk. There are some companies that make some good ones, but it depends on who's putting them together and how it's all working. Loud exhaust?
Loud exhaust.
Loud exhaust. No. Loud, like, that's the problem is actually there was some dude that rode down the other street over here today, and I think he just got his new Beluga pipe for his Harley or whatever. It was maybe it was a Himalayan. It was a
Beluga pipe on his Himalayan.
But it was a twin cylinder bike. It was definitely a twin cylinder, some sort of twin cylinder road going bike. I didn't actually see it, so I can't tell you what. But he was so happy to roll it on and roll it off because it made the the back and forth. It made noises on both ends, an ugly, horrible noise. Like if that guy was your neighbor, like if we lived in the world that I want to live in, you would shoot him. You would literally, after the fifth morning he fired that pile of shit up, you would shoot that guy.
Loud pipes save lives, though.
Where?
I don't know. I saw it on a bumper sticker.
You know, so I used to, when I was living in Southern California, I used to do a fair amount of commuting around on the motorcycle, so which meant splitting lanes. And the best thing I could ever do was pull in behind some jackass on some loud piped motorcycle, because here's what happens is every 20th car the person would panic and literally almost swerve into the guy, not away from him, because it's a 50-50. It's like they panic, they like that noise comes and they would swerve, and generally at that point it would part the seas, because they almost kill the guy and then they start hugging the thing. So I had a real wide berth by the time, but I made sure, I gave him about 3 cars lengths in front of me just to watch him part the seas, but the general reaction is not the one you would think. So I don't think that those pipes were, I bet you that 50% of the time, and there's probably some math someplace that would think that those loud pipes actually kill as well. And not because I lived in the house next door and I shot the guy for loud pipes. It is because people panic when they hear the damn loud pipe, and they don't do what you think they would do, because they're not very smart either. They're not paying attention.
Didn't we have the stickers, less sound equals more ground?
That didn't work either. Yeah, that didn't. We didn't get any more ground. Yeah, that was.
We got less sound.
We got less sound, which was good, because it should have said less sound delays losing ground. That would be kind of more of what would really happen.
I mean, the real question is just how much power does it put out on the dyno?
The dyno, like I would, if you lived next to me and you owned a dyno, I'd probably shoot you too. Like, unless you're a really good tuner and you know how to use it. But like, if you're the guy that like hangs those dyno numbers on your, like, look, I bought this and look, it's this horsepower. And I'm like, okay. So when you're riding, right? You're riding. Yeah. And you're going along and when was the last time you actually like tried to twist the grip off the throttle tube? Huh?
Going up that hill out of Sandy Valley today.
Did you twist it?
Oh, yeah.
Did you run out?
There was none left.
On your bike?
My bike.
On your KTM 500? You had it taped. Okay, here we go. Jim had it taped. Throttle was twisted. How fast was the bike going?
40.
How fast? No. How fast? No, it's a good question. So there's a big road in Sandy. I know where he's talking about. It's a big road, big dirt road.
No, he was on the paved road.
On the paved road.
Yeah.
Going up on the paved road.
Yeah.
Then you're breaking the law. You're not allowed to do that.
No, we got plated bikes.
No, not coming home on the way there. After we saw those.
No, if you turn,
you were on the dirt
on his bike.
After we saw the tank.
On his bike, if he turned the throttle wide open on his bike, he is breaking the law for speed limits, no matter what. I promise you.
25 in the dirt?
No, I'm talking about like when you said you was on a paved road.
No, this is on the ground.
Oh, okay, on the gravel road. Okay, so good. You're off road. You're riding off road. That's all good now. Yeah. Okay.
Going up the hill there.
And how fast was it going?
Maybe 80.
Fast enough so that you couldn't look down at the odometer, right?
Well, I can't see it.
The tire was going 90. The bike was going 45.
At that point, you ran out of traction. So it doesn't matter how much horsepower your bike makes. It's probably not going to push it any faster because you're going to run into this wall that the air is going to push on you, and your tire is going to only get so much traction. And but your bike is pretty much stock. You don't have beluga pipe on it, right? Nope. No, yeah, didn't change the swing arm angle to get better traction. Okay, point taken. We'll tune your bike for more power tomorrow. We'll take some stuff off of it or something like that.
Studs in the tires.
More studs, yeah.
So hey, on the chat room, Francis Cuddy. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, I'm putting a Recluse Radius CX on my 2020 350 XCF. Appreciate the tuning tips. I'll tell them you sent me. Oh, okay. So he's talking to them.
That's
and he
good,
appreciates it. So I thought it was a question, but
So he's putting a Radius CX on which one? On 2020
350 XCF.
Okay.
350 XCF.
I was thinking he said Radius X, but not a
CX.
CX.
Yeah, that's the big one, I think. Radius CX has all the stuff.
So CX, I think, has. We have to check. We have to check that because the CX is designed for cable clutches, I believe. Because one of them, the difference between the Radius X and the Radius CX, I'm not sure. there's different. They all have the EXP disc in there, but does the CX? Because there's the one that when you have the cable clutch, you want to get their basket because it allows you to adjust the free plane, and then you get better clutch feel, as opposed to the one that always has a ton of tension in the lever. So there's a couple different levels, and trust me, when you pay a little bit more to get the higher level Recluse clutch, it performs to a higher level. Just you're getting some additional parts in there that actually do a little bit more, or you're actually adding more plates into the clutch pack. There's a lot of different things as George does his research. Any more questions on the paper there? I'll grab that while you keep doing the research here. So if we've answered all the questions in the chat room, that's good. Hopefully they were correct answers. So Mike Zabarik says, love the show and value your opinion, Jimmy. Well, that's good. Somebody does. I'm in the market to buy a used trials bike. Not looking to compete, just hone my skills on a smaller bike. That will transfer over to my YZ250X on Las Vegas single track. Is there any years where they made big improvements? And he's talking about the trials bike. Brands better than others, etc. Most of the ones I see for sale are 20 years old and are still asking quite a bit for the price. So yeah, there's a time in history around 2000, and I want to say it was 2003 or 2004, where gas literally shed, I want to say 15 or so pounds off of the trials bike. And they did it by, well, making a lot less trials bike. They made everything, the motor just got super tiny. They took out anything that was unnecessary. The way that they activated the clutch, which is now kind of commonplace, was instead of having a separate, slave cylinder, they actually built it into the side cover. The gears that they got. Yeah, I was going to try to turn your mic down. The gears inside the transmission, everything got smaller and lighter and smaller and lighter. And so a lot of durability went out at that point at the same time. But it forced the other manufacturers to start chasing this weight thing. And then shortly after that, the 4-stroke started coming, which in the beginning were a little bit they weren't bad. It was the Montesa, but some of the other brands tried them as well. But so it's kind of after that time, if you get something early 2000s, you're going to get something that's, we'll say, built a little bit more like a tank. And then after that, there's kind of this area in the mid 2000s that might be a little, depending on what you get. And then after that, that's when they start getting expensive, because most trials bikes don't get a ton of time on them unless they were, somebody's competition bike. And somebody will buy it, hang on to it for 4 or 5 years, and then sell it. And then they seem like they go on the circuit and what I found with trials bikes, if you don't have a buddy that has one, you're probably not going to ride it a whole lot. It's kind of like it's like an electric bike. You need to have 2 of them in order to really go out and do much with them. But I don't think that there's in the market, and is the used market and stuff seems to sort of fluctuate a little bit depending on whether they get popular. I think that with gas through KTM coming back, you're going to see a lot more new bikes because they brought a fair amount of them over in comparison. There's going to be a lot of new bikes out there, and that's probably going to drop the price down of some of the used stuff. But kind of check into the parts availability when you buy a bike. Maybe kind of look and see what the levers are going to cost you, what the rear fender specifically will cost you before you jump in and buy a particular bike, because it could those parts prices, whether they're available or not, could shock you. But it's not like you're going to wear out engines. It's things like clutch plates, and then you can weld the cases. I mean, I had a Beta 250 trials bike for a while, and it was great until it actually backfired and it blew the Kickstarter out of the cases. Again, we're talking about that time when everybody was looking for a little less weight. So that was an expensive problem to have. But other than that, it was a great bike. I mean, it was one of the better trials bikes I've ever had. So there's lots of stuff, and I think Beta is going to start.
So my 2 cents on that is I'd look for a club. There's a club down by me. I forget what it's called. There's a trials club. They even have property up in the hills
near Sacramento. Yeah,
look for a club, and then I just posted up. Maybe reach out to Paul Neff at Cispus Cycles.
Yep, he knows up in the Pacific Northwest.
He'd be able to tell you, or maybe hook you up with somebody. It was kind of clicky.
Very clicky.
So, but if you get inside and show some interest, those are the kind of guys that want to take you under your wing, and maybe help you, set you up, or whatever.
Even as far as the parts availability and stuff, sometimes that's actually pretty regional, because you might have a good dealer that will know where to source it, because now everybody's just so used to going on eBay or Amazon or something and finding the thing.
Adrian he's down there in the valley by me. Lewis Sport. Adrian at Lewis Sport. He's a big importer for
the guy was he's super helpful.
Really helpful and knowledgeable. And then the guy that came and trained with you.
The guy that the trials
Ryan
guy.
Young.
Oh yeah.
Ryan Young. He's a real nice guy.
He's the importer for Sherco.
Yeah, and he's really nice and helpful too.
Yeah. No, it's a really strong, tight knit community, and it's not, once you kind of get into it. And I don't know that much about it, but I sure know I like putting around on my trials bikes. Mark Daniels asked, Jimmy, does your KTM 500 have a Kickstarter on it? Well, it did last time I looked. Why? Did somebody play a joke on me around here?
That's your rally bike? The one you're rebuilding?
It's one of them. Yeah. Yeah. They all my KTMs, does Bob, the one that I haven't paid you for yet, have a Kickstarter on it? No. You might get paid next week. I have another school. I might have enough money to pay you for it. Well, but I might not pay.
Springs eternal.
I might not pay you for it because yeah.
It's like wimpy. Gladly pay you tomorrow for a burger today.
You should. Yeah, well, if I was riding it around, then I'd feel guilty. But it's just sitting there parked. Just hope we don't have a registration issue. I forgot what we even did with that. I know we got it out of your hands. Anything else?
Nothing on the site that I see.
Nope.
I got to tell you, on that Recluse tuning, there's just that little bit right at the end, at the beginning of that first little bit of engagement.
We're talking about the clutch.
To dial in that Recluse, that really makes a big difference.
Yeah,
a huge difference.
Just difference.
That little bit. Does it rev up and come just off of idle to engage, or does it really just start going right away? And engaging and
so there's six springs in the EXP disc, and then you have different weight wedges and stuff. But those six springs, like I intermix them. So I mean, a lot of times I'm 3 and 3 of one color and another color to get that just right. And then I go down to actually playing with even the free play gain to get that feeling just right, which Recluse doesn't like, because if you screw that up, you're frying your clutch if you don't allow it to work all the way. But yeah, it makes a big difference. It's like having somebody operate your clutch wrong if you don't have it set up right. And even on the KTM 390 we just did a project bike with, I installed the clutch as delivered and I put it in, and like usually I rode it around for that day. I was uncomfortable. Jim, same thing, was like, I pulled it out. You should ride it now. I switched the springs in.
Yeah, we're going to ride it tomorrow.
Oh yeah, way better. Yeah. You're going to ride it tomorrow? Oh, wait.
I was going to ask about that.
I thought you were going to.
If you don't have it set up right, would you do that after the show?
I have a flooring project over in the other thing, and then I was wondering about this board here where I can mark off the bikes.
Oh, I'm sure you were.
Yeah. I mean, you already dusted Jeremy off. What else do you have to do?
Mark Daniels is going back to something here. He asked about the Kickstarter.
But they offer the add-on kit.
Yeah. I got the one on mine, and the one time I was going to try and use it, it wouldn't start the bike. I got my jump start battery out, and that was easier.
I would much rather buy a jump start battery than put that Kickstarter kit in, because 99% of the time it's going to be a battery issue that caused the problem, and now they end up working out pretty good. So with that, I think we've answered most of the questions. Bob is raising his hand. Yes, Bob?
I'm just here to remind you that it's a family show, so when you refer to your physical condition,
family show,
refer to yourself as ample posterior.
Ample posterior, right. So I just looked, I can look in this chart how much dead airspace that took to get in here. So we should have ended the show like 30 seconds ago. But with that, I would like to remind you that this show would not be possible without the help of a brand called KTM. Powered by a distinct ready-to-race mentality, KTM is the world's leading high-performance street and off-road motorcycle manufacturer. With North American headquarters based in Murrieta, California, over the years, KTM has built a reputation as a fierce competitor on racetracks around the world, and the brand's remarkable global success is reflected in every product it develops and every move it makes. Kind of like subliminally causing you to buy a new KTM without knowing why from the advertising on this podcast. So with that, I think we're going to call it good. I'd like to also thank Climb and Recluse for supporting the show. George, do you have anybody to thank? You have any plugs?
Nothing.
Nothing?
No. No.
Follow George on Instagrams?
No, don't follow me. I'm bored.
Where's your flag? You're not waving a flag around?
Well, see, I'm still masked up on your computer.
Where's your sticker?
See that? It's on your computer, but I'm wearing a mask. I'm politically correct there.
What about what tequila were we drinking tonight?
Oh, Jose Cuervo Tradicional Reposado. Good stuff. No, I just want to, thankful to be here, be riding, and I'm above grade, so it's a good day.
I thought you were going to thank me. So
thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, okay,
yeah,
good.
Thanks.
We're really trying to, get a lot of thumbs up here.
Send thumbs here. I'm going to put some in myself.
Yeah, drop some thumbs up on the show, and
thumbs mean a lot to Jimmy.
Hey, they're like dollar signs, okay?
We should come back in a half hour and just bash people. Let's put up.
No, I'm going.
Other reviewers on here.
I'm going to sleep. I'm done. So with that, everybody, hey, thanks for joining in. We will see you out on the trail. Cheers.